2026 Board of Selectmen meeting. We are continuing to meet via Zoom in accordance with Governor Baker's executive order last year, March 12th, 2020, which was extended this year in order to mitigate the transfer of the COVID-19 virus. Please take note that the meeting is being recorded on Zoom, which I just clicked through. I am John Jeffries, Chairman, Board of Selectmen. Present is Bob Springett, Chris Dwelly, Kate O'Brien. We're soon to going to hear from Bob. Would you just acknowledge that you are present for the record?
Present for the record.
And when Robin Hunter arrives, we will give her a hard time for being late, and then she'll announce herself. When you are asked to present and speak, would you please state your name for the record, position if you are a town employee or a member of an elected or appointed board, in your case, board.
Did you make any comments about Ford's,
So with the preamble underway, I was going to make comments about Ford's golf game.
Well, not his golf game, because it's probably reasonable.
This is a business meeting, everybody. I just want to focus on that.
Yeah. Some of us that are trying to conduct. Kate, do we have any citizens' comments for this portion of the meeting where we're recognizing citizens' questions?
We do not.
Thank you very much. Seeing no citizens' comments, Chris, I'm going to move to item 1.1. And you are the presenter. And Chris, could you frame this, and then I would like to give my brief questions, and then what I'll do is ask Bob and Robin. That way, Phil and any of the other members that are going to address this, you'll have at least the questions that we have in their entirety, and they can either answer the questions at the beginning or address the questions as they're going through the presentation. Is that okay with you?
Sure, that works. All right, so FMA was selected by the town's building committee last year to provide architectural and design services for our community center building. They worked with the community on our feasibility and schematic design leading up and into what was a successful vote at this spring's town meeting, where the town overwhelmingly approved the design of a renovated community center. FMA, as is customary in these types of process, when you do the design build, has provision in their contract, like our project manager, to extend their services into the next phase, into final design, as well as bidding and construction. And that is what is before you this evening, is to essentially continue on with our design team, FMA, who we've had with us. As you'll recall, the board about a month and a half ago approved the extension for Colliers, the town's project manager, for this effort. One thing that I will note before we head into the conversation is that I have this on the board's agenda this evening as a vote for approval, but I wanted to let you know that the building committee has not had an official or formal opportunity to weigh in or vote on this, vote their recommendation on this contract extension. So I just wanted to highlight that for the board this evening. And what I would propose is that if the board is prepared to move forward with this extension, that perhaps you take a vote this evening to allow me to sign off on this contract extension, contingent upon an affirmative vote by the building committee, which will meet on Monday, the 30th. I just asked that we'd structure it that way, as you'll hear from Phil and Ford later, that FMA has subcontractors lined up and are working on their schedule for work for the coming year. And typically those subcontractors like to know that the design firm that they're working with has a contract with the community and is ready to go before they'll engage with work. So that's just something I wanted to be mindful of if the board's supportive of this extension this evening.
Great, thank you, Chris. And as I stated in my introduction, I'd like to just frame this. Before I do that, I want to introduce Robin Hunter, who has joined the meeting. Robin, could you state that you are present for the record? You're muted.
I am present.
Thank you very much. So Robin, at the outset, I asked Chris to just introduce item 1 for our review. And as you just heard, you heard Chris's introduction. And what I said is at the outset is I'm going to just give my questions, and I would like you then to, or if you would like to comment, you can comment. I'd like you to ask questions, comment if you have some things that you would like the team to address in their presentation. Do the same thing for Bob. I just thought that having it in that order would, if we had crossover questions, if there are questions that were similar in nature but a little bit different, they could address them rather than waiting until the end or interrupting along the way. I just thought it might give a better flow for the evening. So mine are pretty straightforward, and my questions come from constituents that we've heard from this summer. And as the process has gone along, one of the things that really was a stumbling point for a lot of the members of the committee, of which I advocated not to pay attention to or to pay less attention to, was a spike in cost in raw materials. So when the report came back for our cost, and our cost had increased by 40%, there was a cry for put the brakes on the project, don't go forward, because the cost has gone up 40%. And my suggestion vehemently to Ford was, don't pay attention to that, move forward. Let's do not stop the engine. And we have traction, we have momentum, we're going to get this done. So my reason for that is I thought the spike in commodity prices was temporary. And I think that we're going to see, God willing, that it is temporary and continues to be temporary. So along those lines, there was a misconception from some of the constituents that the architect's price was going to go up by 100% if the project went up by 100%. So I would just like you to address, whoever would like to address, the fact that the Colliers, our architectural price is not going to, if the price of the project goes up by 50% or 100%. And it's also not going to shrink if the price goes down by 50%, which we do not expect it to happen. So I just want that addressed, and that issue addressed, so we're all on the same page. Comment, Robin, would you like to ask questions or make a comment at this point, or would you like to wait until the end?
So that was actually one of my biggest questions, but I did notice that in the proposal, if I read it right, the proposed fee was based upon a $14 million project and not an $18 million project. And so, the question I was going to ask is the percentage market? And it looks like that's what you provided us down below, the percentages. So that I agree with you, John, that is a question that was critical to the community.
Great. Bob, same thing to you at this point. Would you like to?
I actually have a procedural question, and I really think that we're doing this out of order. I really think that the proposal ought to go to the building committee. The building committee ought to have the opportunity to vet the proposal in detail and then make a recommendation to the board, rather than us doing this at this meeting. I mean, that's the way this stuff usually goes.
Right.
So the question is, will we delay anything by doing it that way. Will it, I think what Chris was trying to do was keep to a timeline. So I ask you and Ford as members of the building committee, if we do, I think it's probably, I would like to hear Collier's presentation, and maybe we listen to their presentation, and then the building committee goes back and vets the proposal, and then we vote on it after they make a recommendation. Does that work, Bob? Because we have everybody here.
I think that I think the protocol is for the building committee to opine first. I don't know if we could vote on this on September 9th. I don't know if that hangs anybody up. Phil could give an overview if you want.
Yeah, I mean, they're here. I would like to hear their overview.
Ford, what do you think?
Let me first introduce, you have Phil Palumbo, who's our project manager. We have Deborah Fennick, principal of her architectural firm, and John Richardson, who's the lead designer. And Phil, which is his job as our owner's project manager, had been in negotiations with FMA, and that's the way it's done in every project I've seen. And then they will make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, who then that's who the contract is with. We will be talking to the building committee on Monday, hoping that hopefully they will recommend to you that we continue with FMA, because to change an architect is going to cost a lot more than what we currently think we're going to spend in time and money. So it's usually the way to go. What I wanted to say is, before I have Phil take over, I wanted to say is we're in the design development stage now. And FMA does not have a fee proposal addendum agreed to, but they are proceeding forward in good faith, which of course is a little bit of a danger for them because they don't do all the work. They have hired people, engineering firms mainly, that they are contracting with to do the work. And so far, they have looked at the septic system, have engineers look at our septic system. They met with Janet Claypool and Mark Galoni to finalize their needs for their offices. The 1910 building has had walls and ceilings opened up. A good part of a day and more was spent doing that. The external foundations, thanks to the Dover Highway Department helping us, expose the foundation. We're down 8 feet to expose the foundations to know what's there, and the engineers had an opportunity to meet with that. And of course, the building committee, as you know, has met with the site planners to review the site plan. But this weekend, Niche Engineering, I think I pronounced that right, for engineering is going to be out there Saturday and Sunday doing a final land survey of the property. There'll be a traffic analysis done in September. Dover Planning Board meeting is, we're working on that. And then we go out for final cost estimate. So these are all things that are ongoing with consultants that need to be paid. So I think FMA is probably a little nervous that we haven't moved forward as quickly as we probably should have. After that, we go to construction documents. Then we, in April, I think it's April, we hire a construction manager and start construction. So that's the process we're in. It's a tight timeline. Thank you, FMA, for honoring that timeline and moving forward while we go through our process of town government getting to where we should be. Phil, the floor is yours.
All right, great. Thanks, Ford. Oh,
Hey, Phil,
sorry.
Phil, just one second. I don't mean to interrupt. I just, I apologize. I just want to be sure that we don't just gloss over what Bob brought up. And I do agree with Bob that this is out of sequence, but I also believe, as I stated earlier, and Robin reiterated, I think this is important to hear from the team right now, so we maintain the timeline. And we will take it out on Ford personally for being out of sequence and not getting the group together on a timely basis, but we can hold him accountable for that part. I just think it's important. And Bob, your point is well taken that Ford and the building committee should have been first from a sequence standpoint. I just think it's very important, as Chris noted in his opening remarks, that we at least give the proper direction of our intent going forward and hear from the team tonight. So if everybody's in agreement with that, I think, Phil, as Ford said, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So just to back up just a little bit. So as has been presented, FMA submitted a fee proposal to finish up this project. They executed feasibility and schematic design. And so this fee proposal will get us through design development, construction documents, bidding, construction project closeout. They developed this fee proposal based off of the time and staffing plan they anticipate to execute the project. They got fee proposals from their consultants, so structural engineer, mechanical engineer, and so on, based off of the same theme, understanding time required to finish this project up. And that resulted in the fee proposal we have in there. And this is typical, there's two groupings of fee proposal, if you will. There's a base services fee amount, and then a specialty services or supplemental services fee amount. And so your base services are your standard design scopes, architecture, structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, civil engineering, landscape architecture. And then you have your supplemental services that are unique project to project. The extent of them vary depending on the project. So for example, the furniture design, scope of design for this project is going to be drastically different than the furniture design for a 100,000 square foot school building. So different design categories like that, industry standard wise, are treated as supplemental services, and they're evaluated within that kind of ad services grouping, if you will. So in reviewing FMA's fee proposal, we took all that into account, understanding the values they have to the supplemental services scope of design, and then studied what they were showing for their base services and to try to compare their fee submission to comparable municipal projects that we worked on with similar scale in the recent past. So projects that are either closing out now and or have been closed out in the past year. We take essentially their FMA's base services fee proposal. That is the dollar amount of $1,526,734. So you take that fee proposal amount, base services, and that's from feasibility study through project closeout. And we said, all right, let's compare that base service fee proposal to these comparable projects. We put them in our review analysis letter. So we utilized the Hadley Senior Center project that closed out last year, South Hadley Senior Center project that's closing out currently, and Long Meadow Senior Center project that's also in closeout. And essentially what we did is in an efficient manner, and this is an industry standard, to compare designer fees and whether a awarding authority is getting a fair and reasonable fee from that designer. It's very standard to take that designer fee and understand what it is percentage-wise out of that project's construction budget. And you utilize that to understand, okay, comparing it to a similar project in scale, okay, are we getting a fair and reasonable fee proposal? So again, these percentages utilized cover feasibility study through project closeout. So in looking at Hadley Senior, so with that, FMA's fee proposal percentage to our construction budget is 10.8%. That's their base services fee proposal. So in analyzing these three projects, these three comparable projects, Hadley Senior Center project, that fee percentage from feasibility through project closeout was 9.8%. South Hadley Senior Center fee proposal from feasibility through project closeout was 9.1%. And Long Meadow Senior Center project was 10%. So, and then because no two projects are identical, Within that review analysis, we indicate underneath each of those comparable projects, the specs, if you will, or the characteristics of those projects. They either make them comparable to Dover's project that we're currently executing or not comparable. So with that, the two main differences that Colliers we knew differed from these comparable projects were, one, the scope of work required to go through multiple new construction schemes and multiple ad reno schemes and develop those to a level where they could be cost estimated during feasibility. And then in schematic design, bring one new construction and one new ad reno scheme through that phase of design and cost estimate that one. That design effort is a lot more time intensive than was required on these senior center projects that we utilize as comparison. Those projects were new construction projects. Those towns had lots of land that they knew they could do a ground up project on. There was never any entertaining and studying ad reno schemes. So that's a lot of time not needed on those projects. And then the other big picture topic relative to design time difference is that when you're designing a senior center building, you're essentially coordinating with a council on aging user group. Whereas when you're dealing with a community center project like the Dover one, you're coordinating with a council on aging, Parks and Rec, and then the community forums we had to entertain and execute to get community feedback on the community side of the building and the site. So that factor is another time-intensive factor that makes the Dover project more time-intensive than these comparable projects. So based off of those differences, we looked at FMA's base services fee proposal as a fair and reasonable fee proposal. And we didn't have an issue with it, and we don't have an issue with it. To speak to John's question relative to, are we going to see if there's another cost escalation that occurs, are we going to see FMA's fee proposal go up? So in FMA's contract, they are obligated to design to our construction budget, design the building, design the site to meet our construction budget. We're going to have a cost estimate coming up in the next couple of weeks. That'll be the design development estimate. At that phase, if we come in over budget on that estimate, they're going to be responsible for coordinating with the building committee and their engineers to understand, okay, how do we value engineer and appropriately design this building and site and make adjustments to get us back down to budget. Same thing with the final phase of cost estimates and construction documents. If we come in over budget on that cost estimate, they're going to have to go through the same exercise of understanding the most appropriate way to adjust the building design, site design to get us back on budget. And kind of same goes for the bidding process. If we come in over budget, we're going to have to coordinate with the building committee in the town to understand, first come forth with appropriate ways to adjust the building and site design to get us back on budget and understand if that's palatable to the owner. And that effort of going through that value engineering and studying process is, contractually their obligation. And it's not considered an ad service. It's something that would increase their design fee. Now with that, if something happens where, we're carrying this $14 million construction budget and we're going out to bid in early March, and some crazy escalation occurs with the construction market, and next thing you know, we're seeing bids coming in at $18 million, $20 million. Well, that cost escalation is drastically different than needing to recoup $100,000, $200,000. And that cost escalation, that market caused cost escalation is something that is not within a design team's control. So contractually, they're protected to not have to all of a sudden design this 18,000 square foot building to make it worth, $60 million less than what the bids come in at or so on. So there's a difference there, and it's important to clear that up. We don't, when coordinating with the owner estimator on this project, we don't anticipate that drastic of a cost escalation, but I just wanted to highlight that to John's question. Now, Robin's question was on, she saw the fee proposal and was seeing $14 million instead of the $18 million. So our total project budget is $18 million. our construction budget within that total project budget is that $14,180,000. So like I had mentioned, when we talk about percentages on this designer fee topic, we utilize that as a tool to compare to other projects and what those design fee percentages were to understand if we're getting a fair and reasonable fee proposal, not because, you know, this design team just grabbed $14 million and said, okay, what's 10% of that? What's 10.8%? Not because of that, but because it's an efficient tool and truthfully an industry standard tool to compare and understand if the owner is getting a fair and reasonable fee proposal. So with that, I think I covered everything. So base services fee amount wise, as well as the ad services fee amount, and just to kind of put it on record, again, their base services fee proposal is the $1,526,734. That includes the $250,000 they've already contracted with and got paid for feasibility and schematic design. And then their ad services fee proposal is the $231,950. It's important to note with that ad services fee amount, that's going to be something we track separately from the base services as we go through the project and the design process. Because, for example, a design scope within that ad services grouping is permitting. So the process to get through a planning board site plan approval, process to get through conservation commission. We won't be doing that, but that's that permitting topic. That fee amount they have on that is a not to exceed, which is very standard because you don't know what you're going to get into, how many planning board meetings is going to be required to get to that yes and get to that approval and recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. So it's a not to exceed amount. So they have that at $23,650. So something like that, again, is a not to exceed. So because of that, these different design scopes that are in the ad services grouping are going to be tracked individually. But ultimately, big picture, we feel the fee proposal is fair and reasonable. We recommend approval on it.
Thanks, Phil.
Yep.
So at this point, I think we should hear from either Deborah, I think you're up next.
Oh, I'm going to defer to my colleague, John, who's got more details than I do.
Sure. Thanks, Deborah. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I feel like Phil did a very thorough job of explaining it. And as he said, we did build this fee up based on the scope of work. And we've worked very successfully with Dover in the feasibility and schematic design phase. And we are looking forward to continuing through. We have been continuing through kind of at our risk. You know, we certainly think it's a fair proposal. It is a lot of work per square foot, but it's a very special project to us. It's a very special project to Dover, and we want to do our best for you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Why don't we go in reverse order? Bob, do you have questions that you would like addressed at this point?
Nope.
Robin, anything you'd like to add?
I think what we were going to do here was just listen to the presentation and then wait for the feedback from the building committee.
Right. Right. Board, is there anything you'd like to add at this stage? You're muted, Board. Board, you're muted.
The only thing I want to add is I did talk to actually another firm that I have been dealing closely with, and with a brief outline, and their comment was very fair, extremely fair, and they said it's a small project in relationship to a lot of others, and that because it is small, it costs more actually. If you're looking at a percentage basis, on a percentage basis, because it still takes an awful lot of time to do it. And they basically, they said, take it, and it's a good deal. So that's what I was told by another firm.
They want to make a contribution for it.
What?
Do they want to make a contribution?
No, we're all within budget. What we've figured out, Bob, is this is within budget. It's within the budget that was approved by the town. And where we're going to save money in this project is hopefully reducing some of the scope items that we might not have to deal with, and with the cost of materials and having a timeline that we may be able to even reduce the timeline. So the longer we stretch out the timeline, the more it costs. So, we need to, if we do all that and we manage the project well, which is up to Colliers and FMA, if we manage it well, we're going to come out hopefully under budget. So this is a very fair proposal, and it's within our budget that we told the town we would spend.
Great, thanks, Ford. So I think from a procedural point, then we should amend the motion, or we can do two things. We can amend the motion to allow our town administrator to execute all documents related to Bennett McCready's architectural fee proposal for design service upon review of the building committee, or if that's not the acceptable language, then I would say we can amend that to without any, we could say with.
Yeah, John, if I could just recommend, I think if the board wanted to go that way, I would just make it contingent upon a successful vote or an affirmative vote by the building committee for FMA's contract extension. And I stated that on Monday. That gives us a 2-week jump start. Otherwise, the board, if you chose, does not have to take any action this evening. If you prefer that it just comes back to you at your next meeting on September 9th, you could do it that way as well.
So Chris, add the word subject to review and successful vote.
Yep, that language works.
Because that's their job, right? Their job is to review the proposal in detail.
Correct.
And make a recommendation. So we'll make the motion subject to those things.
Yes, yep.
Robin, does that work for you?
So if it works for you and Bob, I can live with it. My preference was going to be to, I wanted to get sort of a summary of what the issues were from the building committee, so that, that might jog my old brain here, and, I may then have other questions. So I was hoping to get a summary, or have somebody from the building committee come and talk to us about the questions they asked and the issues, what they liked and what they didn't like about the proposal, and what potentially they pushed back. And to keep things on track, I am happy to have a meeting next week after the building committee meets, so that I don't hold this up. It can be a one subject meeting just to go over this. I would feel a lot more comfortable doing that. I mean, I don't think we need anybody from Colliers at that meeting, because I think if there are any questions, the building committee will submit them to them over via email. But I would just like to hear from the building committee.
So I'd support that, Robin, as well as the meeting next week if it's that urgent.
Right. I mean, I am happy to make the time, just because I don't want to hold things up.
So I appreciate that, Robin. I just want to be mindful also that next week, I don't know what Chris's availability, Kate's you're approaching the Labor Day weekend next weekend. would be the approach of the Labor Day weekend. So I don't know what people's availability would be. I don't know if how I don't know how prudent it is to put it to add another meeting to our schedule just for the purposes of vetting what the building committee comes back to.
Well, I
So,
told you,
Chris,
this, I am willing to live with the alternative if you and Bob are comfortable with it. It's just the way I was thinking the process was going to work.
So I think, John, I'll speak on behalf of Ford, Phil, and the design team. I think we can live with a vote on the 9th. They've
Okay.
continued to do work. I want to say that, I do know that there is some concern around making sure that subcontractors are getting scheduled so that there doesn't have a delay or any impact on the project. Whether that's the case or not, I'm not sure, but ultimately, it's up to the board. And, John, if you want to make a motion one way, or if Robin wants to make a motion the other way, you get a second and 2 votes. And, that's the majority of the board. And, that's what it comes down to. So,
right. I just want to be mindful that this is there's a lot going on at this time of the year. I want people to know that we're certainly operating in good faith. For me personally, I don't think there's anything, all of my questions have been addressed this evening. For me, I don't think there's anything that's going to come up that the building committee, Bob, Ford, yourself, Chris, that couldn't be addressed in that review. So I would, unless something dramatic comes to our attention from the building committee, for the sake of moving the process along, I would rather propose a subject to Bob's words. Bob, could you repeat what you said? Subject to?
I'm not going to vote for it, but it's subject to a review by and vote of. I'm going to vote for Robin's proposal. So,
All right.
and I don't know why we can't meet on Thursday the 2nd, to be perfectly honest.
Just so you know, I can't meet on Tuesday or Thursday. I have meetings.
Okay, then it would be the 9th. And again, I don't know. I mean, wasn't it last meeting when we moved funds to pay bills to go out of the borrowing that we approved? So
Yes.
I'm not sure what this paying the bill thing is why is that an issue at all?
it's not paying the bill. It's more of subcontractors want to make sure that when they schedule themselves, that the design team actually has a contract in place.
Okay,
So Ford, when are you going to meet? When's the committee going to meet?
Monday morning at Monday evening at 6:30.
Okay.
And you all can participate in that meeting.
Yeah, we can participate in that meeting, but we still have to formally vote to
Correct.
give Chris the authorization. So I think participating in that meeting is a very good thing. And but if
But we don't have enough
it just
time,
sounds to me like
we'd have to
Robin
post
wants-
the meeting, John.
but I don't think we have enough
I'm
time.
sorry.
If the 3 of us go to the building committee meeting and we deliberate at that meeting, it has to be a posted meeting. And I don't
Correct.
know how much time you need to post the meeting for Monday night.
It's already passed.
It's already passed, so we can't do that.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
if
so
Ford
we have
can't
to-
meet on Tuesday or Thursday, could he meet on Wednesday sometime?
Yeah.
Could you, Ford?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm willing to take minutes. I expect it to be a half an hour meeting.
This is Wednesday, the 4th.
The 2nd,
Well, I'm looking at the wrong month.
Wednesday's the 1st.
the 1st.
Wednesday, Wednesday the 1st, next week, Wednesday. Yeah, I can do that.
All right. So we don't need a motion this evening, and we'll table this for our,
Well, why don't we decide on a time so we can get the meeting posted?
Not 6:30?
Do you want it at night or during the morning or?
if it's just one session for one conversation, we can do it in the morning.
I
Right,
may not be able to do it in the morning. Might have to take somebody to the hospital.
right. So
Wednesday.
Ford, you're critical to this. When can
I'm
you
just
do it?
letting you know that Chip's sister's here and she has an operation that day.
Okay.
So 6:30, Wednesday the 1st.
So could you do the evening?
Yeah, I could do anything probably after 10 a.m. I could do noon or, whatever. I can do the evening also.
6:30 the 1st?
Sure. A Zoom meeting?
Sure, make it
Okay.
easier for people, yes.
Okay. All right.
What time?
6:30.
PM.
Got it, my calendar.
And bikes.
Is John frozen?
John's frozen.
Okay.
John's not frozen.
Back.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble. The connection is fading out. Can you hear me now? Am I back?
So John,
Okay.
6:30 Wednesday, does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we need more than half an hour.
Okay. Any other anything else to discuss on this item? Okay.
We can move
So
on
thank
to
you very
item
much. Phil, John, Deborah, thank you. We're going to move to item 2.
Thank
you
you
all.
all. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Two.
Am I frozen or is John?
So my, I apologize. Can you, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. So my audio is going in and out. And I apologize for that. So, back.
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, the audio is good, John. Just feed the mouse.
Item 2. Chris?
Yep.
Community Paradigm?
Yep, thank you. Thank you, John. So over the past 2 years, there have been a few town-led efforts to investigate the creation of a Department of Public Works, which would consolidate our highway and public work related efforts into one entity. This started, at least with my time here, with an assessment and conversations with the Park and Rec Commission and the Cemetery Commission, where we first proposed to consolidate the grounds efforts in town to start the first phase, so to speak, of a public works department effort. We followed up with that analysis and report by engaging Community Paradigm Associates to do a soup to nuts assessment of the town's operations as it relates to public works efforts. And they developed and drafted a handful of recommendations. We've also had numerous conversations with the Board of Selectmen, certain committees and commissions in town, as well as with staff. And there seems to be, or is, I would say, a general consensus that establishing a Department of Public Works seems to be a good idea for Dover as we look at modernizing the town's operational structure. So what I have before you in a memo this evening are 2 votes. The first is to ask the board to essentially create the position of a Public Works Director. That was the main recommendation that came out of the Community Paradigm engagement was to create that position. This position would eliminate the existing highway superintendent position. It's how we would fund the public works director position. And then if the board votes on that this evening, that would allow me and the team to get started on recruitment. So the position would then go to the personnel board for their approval. And then Kate would run it through the typical recruitment channels to bring somebody on board. As I thought about the other recommendations that Community Paradigm presented to us, which included creating an operations superintendent, merging the building maintenance department into the Department of Public Works, merging all the grounds efforts into a Department of Public Works. I viewed it as two paths. One, we hire the DPW director to help us implement and establish all those steps. Or alternatively, we start from kind of the ground up and build that organization and then hire a DPW director. And I think my recommendation to the board is the former. I think for two reasons. One, it's good to have, it would be good to have an engaged professional with experience to help us structure and craft this new organization. And I also think it could be detrimental to go through the work of building and structuring something without having the actual not correct, but the right positions in place, so to speak. So that's why I'm asking the board this evening to essentially authorize me to move forward with hiring a DPW director. There's a second motion that I'm looking for the board this evening, and that is to engage Community Paradigm to actually help us with this recruitment process. Public Works director positions are pretty unique, certainly in the Commonwealth and throughout the country, and they're also very competitive. And municipalities have found it beneficial to engage an executive recruitment firm like Community Paradigm to assist the community with the recruitment process. Very much like the process that the board went through for the interim town administrator position and the town administrator position. They'll go through and they'll help make sure that they really get a sense of what the community is looking for. They'll build that into a community profile. They'll then share that with their network, help us identify really the perfect fit and the perfect candidate for Dover. So I think it'd be money well spent, given that Community Paradigm has done the DPW report. They get a sense of what's important to Dover and what we're looking for. And I think at the end of the day, they'd be helpful in helping us find what's a really a new position here in town.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
How's the audio in
Yeah, you're good, John. You're good.
back? Okay. I apologize. I don't know what's wrong. It's just the audio on my side is fading out. So I've fixed it a couple of thank you for that. My comments, just quickly, I'll take the second part first with regards to Community Paradigm and Bernie, us. We had a lot to do, and I definitely would be in favor of that.
Chris, while John is connecting again, can I ask you a quick question? So
I don't know if you can still hear me, so I'm just going to carry on if you can. So one, I'd be in favor of Bernie. And you back. Oh God, Zoom.
sounds like there's something wrong with your internet connection tonight.
I know. I just don't. I don't know where to begin to try to troubleshoot it. Go ahead, Robin. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. So Chris, how are we, so the cemetery isn't gonna fall under this person's jurisdiction, right?
We would advertise the position as being responsible for overseeing the grounds maintenance,
Okay.
as well as the other responsibilities that come with the cemetery supervisor. So the actual, digging graves and
Okay.
assigning plots and things like that. The cemetery commission, however, would continue to act as a separately elected entity
Okay.
overseeing the policies and procedures of the cemetery. So the DPW would essentially oversee the day-to-day operations and would work closely with the cemetery commission on those and any other policy matters or any
Okay.
other matters that the cemetery commission might have.
Okay.
Um,
No, I think this is a really important step in what we started to do when you started 2 years ago. Looking at the way we do things and trying to streamline things better. And I think this is a really good way to streamline the grounds maintenance. So I am very much in favor of moving forward, and I think Community Paradigm would be a great firm to work with on this.
is John frozen again?
John, are you okay?
Yeah, it's just going in and out. I don't know how to troubleshoot it. I'm trying to figure out the internet connection going in, going out, but I heard almost everything that Robin said. So,
Okay.
Bob?
So I like the approach that Chris supports. It's sort of the approach that we used to hire Chris, which is if you're going to bring somebody in to help you run a place, but if you're gonna make changes and run a place, it's good to have the guy or woman who's gonna lead it from the beginning. So I think the first step to move here and because there's a lot of pieces that need to come together. We really need to have someone with a professional background and a little bit broader background because the way the job description reads, it's really broader than what we've had. And I think the person should have the opportunity to shape to have input and shape the formation of the DPW. So I think that's right.
Agreed. Agree with all. So, Chris, I'm gonna take the suggested motions. I'm going to take the first motion. I move the town create the position of Public Works Director as recommended by the Community Paradigm in its March 2021 study.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Robin. All in favor, aye. John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Bob Springer.
So moved. Thank you. And the second motion, I move to authorize the town administrator to execute all documents related to the letter of engagement between Dover and Community Paradigm Associates for recruitment and consulting services, and ask for a second.
I will second it.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Bob Springer.
Excellent. Thank you both. And Chris, will that letter go out to Bernie as soon as possible, or is there a formality to when that letter goes to Bernie?
I'm muted. I'll reach out to Bernie tomorrow and let him know that we plan to move forward with using him for the recruitment. And we'll sign the contract and we'll get to work. He actually, since we'll engage him, we'll wait to go before the personnel board for their final vote on the position so that we can incorporate any additional feedback that might come from Bernie's process into the final position description.
That makes sense.
So,
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get started tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Exciting.
That's great. Thank you. So brings us to item 4. The schedule. Our September schedule. So I think we
Hey, John,
just,
you have 1.3.
sorry. There's 75 pages. We really, it's just,
This is on number
I haven't
52,
figured out
John,
the,
52.
everything is in sequence. Yeah. And I'm trying to do it, instead of doing on 2 computers, which my internet is not good. So 1.3, the list of the FY 22 goals and objectives. We sent out, we have feedback. Are there, before we ask for the motion, any suggestions or questions, Robin or Bob, to add to this?
I'm good.
Bob?
You're on mute.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, just nits really. I think under government structure, there was a thing about a newsletter.
A newsletter?
Yeah, so item 3, incorporate volunteer opportunities throughout town communications. Then there's websites, socials, newsletters.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we, if I could just clarify that quickly, that was one of the things that that we had touched upon indirectly, that the board had touched upon indirectly during the conversations regarding goals, was broadening our stream, if you recall, about communicating with residents. This was part of the conversation about, how do we, how do things from the town socials get to next door? How do they get out through the news alerts? How do they get out elsewhere? And over the past couple of weeks, Kate and I have had some conversations with a few community members who've expressed interest in helping develop out a newsletter, working with us to promote essentially a new channel. So I dropped that in as a goal. So I thanks for highlighting that, Bob. You don't have to accept it, but I thought it was an interesting idea, and it fell. It fell right in line with the communication goals that the board has been talking about.
So I get the COA newsletter, and it's always late to the party. It's fast news. So I really think newsletter is not the way to go. I think the way to go with communications is to do the things that we talked about a couple of years ago, which is we really need the town to come to the website. That website needs to be the trusted source for town information, and we need to build the brand. And I agree that there may be an opportunity for to look at other media channels, but I mean, trying, we have pretty small sort of bandwidth here. And so if the website's going to be the prime communication channel, we need to drive people to the website. And then the next channel should be one of those electronic boards at the transfer station, because everybody goes to the transfer station. We should stay away from newsletters. Sorry.
Consider it, Bob, a digital newsletter that summarizes all the tidbits of information that we think the community might be interested in knowing about, and things that are upcoming. This isn't a paper-based document.
So put in the word digital, and then I'll shut up.
But Chris, I disagree with Bob. I think there are a handful of people in town that, even though it's old news, wouldn't mind, maybe every quarterly, just getting a summary of what's going on. I read the COA newsletter.
Right, we should put it in the COA newsletter.
I mean, we could do that. We could coordinate with them, but there's some people that's the way they get their news.
That's the way they get the old news.
But that's the news they want, Bob.
Yeah. The idea was, regardless of the form, the idea was to just, how can we consolidate?
No, I like it.
A lot of the information that's going on in town into one document, whether that be digital or hard copy. And So Ruth Townsend and Erin Rodot-Savla and, Rob Andrews approached us with this conversation, and, they've done a lot of good work with the community center, and thought it was a good opportunity to engage, the community as a way to further expand our communication efforts. I can add it as a special project if,
No, I think it's great because we do struggle with ways to get communication out. So, let's see. Bob won't read it, so don't waste it. If you're mailing anything, don't mail it to Bob's
I
house.
mean, I can't believe you're talking about mailing newsletters.
Well, I don't know. You could mail it, you could put it on the website. People listen.
2021. So
Okay.
I have, so there's the free cash thing that Rob Andrews raised. And I don't know if we should drop it in under the financial side, long-term financial planning. The other thing that this is sort of I've had a conversation with Dave Sullivan. And one of the things I asked him was how things are going with his current suite of projects, because I know there's a couple of big things going on. And I asked him for two things. I asked him to put together an FY22 project plan, and I think that should be part of modernization. And I asked him, pending he talking to you, Chris, that he should come to the board sometime in September and give an overview of what he's doing with documents, and what he's doing with time and attendance, and what he's doing with the cemetery, because it really is some pretty good work. And I think the board, other members of the board, should hear from him what's going on, if you don't mind. That's it for me.
So just for clarification for the board, I didn't include any of the suggested feedback that has been submitted by the boards and committees. So on the topics of like free cash, if you're interested in including something like that, we'll just have a discussion, take a vote on it, and we'll make sure that it gets incorporated. But the document as it stands does not incorporate any of the feedback that we received that's included in your packet here this evening.
Well, my view is if people took the time to write us memos and to make suggestions for what we should talk about in FY22, we should at least either say a yay or nay, no?
Right, I thought we should include those. No, I thought the free cash one was a good one to include.
John, are you frozen or are you okay? Looks frozen.
Don't worry, he comes back.
All right, so then I think that we should make a motion to include the free cash discussion as outlined in Rob Andrews' memo under the long-term financial planning goal for FY22.
Second.
Why don't you get all in favor? Hi, Bob Springett.
You hear me?
Yep.
You just
I, Robin Hunter.
Up to you, John.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I, John Jeffries.
Okay.
I, John Jeffries.
Did you agree with what we added, John?
Yes. I
Okay.
apologize.
So you can hear, but you can't. Your audio's not good.
It's the audio portion. Coming and go, and it's there's a flash. Internet is unstable, and I don't know why. It comes across every so often. My internet is unstable. God only knows why.
Ah, man, you need a new router or something.
I may.
That's got to be frustrating. All right, you're back.
Can you? I don't know if you can hear me or not. God.
Yes,
can.
hear you.
Can we move the approved 2022 goals and objectives as we've just amended?
Second. All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springer.
Can you hear me? Hi, John Jeffries.
Okay.
I'm gonna try calling in.
That would be good.
I don't know if you can
Yeah, Robert, it's really got to be frustrating.
stand by.
Yeah, John, it's a good idea to call in.
Okay.
So while we're waiting, the only thing I saw on the schedule was
Followed by
somewhere probably around things, but I might miss the December 2nd meeting, the way it's like that right now.
Well, should we change it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you know, we have 2-week vacation planned for around Thanksgiving, which would run into early December. If worse comes to worse and we have a meeting, there's no reason I might be able to do it remotely. So just as a point of awareness more than anything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, everything looks fine until the meeting date. But it does help if I put them in my calendar right away.
Yeah. I don't know, John, Chris, why don't we just post the calendar so that it's on the calendar?
So we will, that's what we do, but typically, at least in years past, the board has looked at the year, just voted that, yeah, these dates are good. We put it in the calendar, and then, you know, Bob, as you just gave an example, you know, if there are conflicts with board members, as we get closer to those dates, the board will typically say, oh, you know what, why don't we move that out a week or so? But at least this establishes that schedule for us so that we can put it in everyone's calendar.
Okay, great. John, you good? All right, so I think what we should do is we should have a poetry reading from Kate as entertainment as we wait for John to dial in. What do you think? Kate, you good? All right, I'll read poetry.
Says I'm in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
mute myself. Can you hear me now?
Oh, much better.
Good God Almighty! I apologize. This is nothing more frustrating than trying to.
Hey, do you want to mute his? There we go.
Can you hear me on the audio? I have to leave the video to be on the audio.
We're getting a lot of echo.
John, if you shut the volume off of your computer and just have the video on, it should be good. Can you hear us, John?
Yep, I can hear you. How about now?
Great.
Still getting feedback. My God.
Why don't you just shut off the video? We know what you look like.
I'm trying. I'm trying to leave that part. I can't find the leave this meeting.
Kate, can you
Okay,
take
how
him
about
out of the meeting?
God Almighty! How about now? I've left the meeting on audio, but I'm on the phone. How's that?
Perfect.
I apologize. My God. Oh my God. I have no idea. This has not happened before, so I apologize. But where are we? I believe we completed this part. Did we formally vote
John, we're on 1.4.
Okay. Okay, so I have left. I got to go back to, oh my God.
So
don't know how
1.4 was the meeting schedule, and Bob had mentioned that he may not be able to make the December 2nd meeting, but we decided we should just move forward with accepting these meeting dates. So if you want to
Okay.
make the motion, or if you want me to, I can do that. It's on page 56 of the agenda.
Yeah, can you do that? Because I'm
Sure.
trying to scroll down.
Yeah, no worries. I move to approve the meeting dates as presented.
Second,
All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
hi, Bob Springer.
Thank you very much. Scrolling, I'm still scrolling and only on
That's
page
okay.
36.
You know, Mona, what might be helpful for the chair is just to have an abbreviated agenda that just gives you the motions, the first page.
No, yeah, that's not a bad idea. So it's page 62, John. It's the board
Yeah.
updates.
When I'm at my office, I can pull up 5 screens. When I'm at home, I've just only got 2, and unfortunately, it's just a nightmare trying to go through and scroll.
Take deep breaths. You've had a rough night
Okay.
tonight. It's okay. We're all good here.
Thank you. Okay, so I have the all the dates. I see all the dates, and Bob, you just have the December date.
Using remote participation, John, even if I'm on holiday, I ought to be able to make the meeting.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So can we do we need a motion to approve these dates?
We did already.
that.
I did it for you.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay. So then, again, I'm trying to scroll through all of these calendars to get to item 5, which is
Page 62.
board members. Yeah, item 5, upcoming agendas. And September 9th agenda, where obviously we're going to add an agenda item for the 2nd. Is that correct? September
Right.
2nd?
But that's a brief meeting, 30
Right.
minutes. You can
September
have dinner
9th.
after. You can count on dinner after that meeting.
Yes. September 9th, September 23rd. Those look fine to me. Anybody else have anything that they would like to add to these? Or
So
modify?
I would like to just talk a little bit about the meeting we had last week with Colonial and the water. I have gotten a number of calls, and I think I would like to have another meeting, and I would especially like to have a meeting prior to the ZBA's hearing. So there are a couple of things that I would like to have addressed at another agenda at another meeting or on an agenda based upon what I heard last week. So, first of all, there continues to be a misconception by citizens of the town that we can do more than we can actually do with respect to Colonial Water. So, what we're doing by having Denise help us and by having Chris reach out to the DEP and ensure that the DEP is following up on this discoloration issue I believe is the most that we can do. And, I don't know if we should perhaps have council opine on what our roles and responsibilities are with respect to ensuring that Colonial Water is working towards a solution for the discoloration issue. And then I wonder if our attorneys really have the expertise to assist us with this, or whether we should be thinking about potentially getting environmental counsel that deals primarily in hydrology study, that deals with potential DEP issues to supplement the advice that we're getting. I did hear Colonial Water in the questions and answers that we have say that the engineer that they are hiring at the request of DEP is evaluating whether or not they have the bandwidth to add additional homes. So if that is the case, then I wonder how they could have sent a letter to the ZBA saying that they have the bandwidth for that potential, for that 75 apartment development on 109. So I just think there are a number of things that I heard and I may not have heard correctly, so I would really very much like to have a meeting to get some of these questions addressed. And I would also like to understand, what questions the ZBA has that are not getting answered as they're going through this approval process. So I would very much like to have a follow-up meeting just to discuss some of these issues.
So do you want it on September 9th, or do you want it on the 23rd, or do you want a separate standalone meeting?
So it looks like September 9th is a very full meeting. And,
Right.
If you like, I could work a little bit with Chris, because maybe a lot of these answers are already there and I just haven't been paying close enough attention.
Well, a couple of
To
things
them.
that you just mentioned are things that Chris and I have had conversations with. I would imagine if you're thinking about it, I've had the conversation with Chris about it. My guess would be Bob has had the conversation about it, that there are items that have come up in their conversation with us last week that I feel, just as you just described, Robin, are contradicting things that they said earlier. So I really want to have an understanding of what our position can be relative to those contradictions.
Right, and I feel as though we're in this very unique position here because we're the town, but we're also a customer. So as a large customer, are there other rights that we have that we should be pursuing to ensure that, this issue gets addressed? I did hear the DEP say over and over and over again that this is a discoloration issue and not a contamination issue. Yet I had 3 people contact me about the water contamination. And, I get upset when I hear that because granted, the water is unpleasant to look at. And if I had yellow water, I would not be drinking it, most likely.
My water was brown today, the color of mud.
Did you drink it?
No, I use Poland Springs.
Okay. So, so these are issues, as the townhouse, the water's brown. I'm not sure if it's brown every day, but some of the days, right, Chris and Kate? in the toilet bowls, it's brown. So, as a consumer, so I'm conflicted by our role as the Board of Selectmen and the water, the water operators? And then what our role is for that, and then what our role is as a customer. Because clearly the customers of Colonial are getting very frustrated. And there are a lot of citizens out there that think we can do more than what we're doing. And I'm not sure we can. Maybe as a customer with the other customers, we could be doing more to get their attention. But this is dragging on. I think it's been going on since June.
Right, it's 2 months.
Right. And there's also concern about the merger with Aquarian, and we have made numerous requests to Colonial to introduce us to Aquarian and have them come to one of our meetings and talk about, their customer service and how they handle things like this. For me, this is complete uncharted territory, and I'm not exactly sure the best way to proceed.
It's always good to understand the rules of the road. So I think talking to council and understanding that what does play and what doesn't play, what can and can't be done, I think that's a start. And I think that clearly there are people who have had it with Colonial. And I am, this is, the water company ought to be, as somebody said at the meeting, clear and safe water. And so I think, I do think we have to sit down and understand what what steps we can take, or how limited or how not limited. And I think the people in the town are looking for a way to do something. They come to us because we're the elected board. What are our roles and responsibilities? What can we do? What can they do as customers? There may be other ways of dealing with Colonial water that would be more effective than what we've been doing. What we've been doing may be effective in the long run, but it sure as heck seems to be in the long run. And it's been that way for, listen to people, it's been that way for years. So I would support doing basic research, finding out roles and responsibilities, looking at options that can be pursued by the board as a board, or by customers as customers, to try to get much more quicker and much more responsive action to remediate these issues. The other side of the coin is, someone I know very closely suggested that most people don't save their shopping receipts to be able to demonstrate that they bought water since June in order to get reimbursed by Colonial. So I thought that was a hand-handed offer, really.
Well, I give them credit for trying, sending stuff out, but they send out a text and an email without a link to their website.
Maybe they have a newsletter.
So I did download, but this afternoon I did click the website. I did go to their website and I did download the form. It's just a simple PDF form from Colonial Water that basically says I went to Roach Brothers or I went to the Dover Market and I purchased a bowl in Springs, literally like if you could see earlier that I was drinking, Bob, just like you were drinking today. So they have done it. They did put it in. Denise Garlick put it the link into her newsletter this afternoon that went out. So they are taking the steps. They have demonstrated they would do that. But I agree with both of you that we need to have them in, and we need to know more about what we can do, both, as you said, Robin, as customers and in our official capacity. And it just seems to me that there's going to be other items that other avenues that we can pursue. So back to my original question, do we have them stand alone? Do we have them, you're right, there's a lot on the 29th, on the 9th. Do we have it on the 29th? And then having on the 29th is a month from now, right? That's another month has gone by. So 2 months turns into 3 months.
John, you have to do it on the 23rd, I think, because the ZBA meets on the 30th.
Right.
So it has to be before, it has to be, yeah, at least the week before that.
You know, Chris,
So
I
then-
think it makes sense, and I'm happy to work with you on it because it kind of ties into the water task force, and maybe we talk to Courtney as well, and you know, maybe the ZBA, they could designate a person to be part of helping us pull together an agenda and preparing for this meeting.
Sure. I mean, there's a few, different ways that you could approach it. If you want to do, Robin, you and I could have a conversation with council.
Okay.
If you wanted, we could have one member of the ZBA, and Courtney sitting on that conversation as well. I could have council provide a memo to the board. I know that they are working on answering some of these questions as it relates to the 40B proposal for the ZPA. But these broader questions about what can and cannot be done, we can do it in a memo form. It doesn't have to be in a meeting. It's really whatever format the board most prefers.
Right. So for me, I think I like a memo form as well as a meeting so that citizens can hear about it as well. So Chris, maybe I'll touch base with you tomorrow and we can strategize how best, because I'd like to just have a agenda that we get input from the various contributors to this, like the planning board, the ZBA, the Board of Health.
Sure.
Again, I'm not exactly sure what the Board of Health's role is here. My understanding is their role is just regarding water quality, and this isn't a water quality issue.
It'd be good to be inclusive, I think.
Right, and to get people's questions.
They don't, yeah. And also, again, not just the questions, but get the roles and responsibilities of each of these different groups laid out.
Right. I mean, I was even criticized for listening only at the meeting, and there was, but there was a lot of information that we got at that meeting. And, and again and again and again, no matter how many times the DEP said, it's the DEP, that's their role. They're the regulators. They're saying this is not contamination. So
They won't drink the water.
Right, who are we to say that it is? I don't know. Is it our responsibility to sample test? I don't think so. We could certainly test the water in the townhouse. I'm just really torn by what our role is here. And I'm just going on.
Well,
I'm sure people would like to have dinner, so I'm done.
So let's go back to the question of where we're on with regards to the agenda. So there's a lot you covered. There's just a lot of things that you went through. There are items that we need to have addressed. How do we sequentially put them on a calendar so that we address them? I don't want to have a public hearing where we don't have a lot of the issues. We don't have a lot of the proper questions. I don't think that would be productive. I think that there's a lot of people who are very frustrated, as we've all said, and they want answers. I just want to ask the right questions first and have those questions asked by the appropriate people. So let's get the agenda on, let's get the right items on the agenda at the right time. But I also don't want to wait another month, let another month go by. So when should we have them on the calendar?
Well, I would suggest the 16th. And Robin and Chris, as they could do some of this preliminary work, could let us know if that's viable.
Okay.
And so I will work with Chris on putting together an agenda, and then Chris will share the timeline and agenda with you guys each separat's and get your input. With the goal of
Okay.
having
But the
something.
16th sound doable?
I don't know, let's Chris and I talk.
Okay, good, good.
All right. So just for September, we're now talking about the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, and the 20 what?
Third,
3rd.
that's where you make the big bucks, John.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of items that we're focused on addressing. All right. Is there anything else under our upcoming agenda? Is there anything else anybody would like to add or modify that are on the agendas right now?
Nope, I could just say that I don't have any updates for this particular meeting on, we talked about Carol, that was the biggest update.
Okay. The only thing that I had planned to add with regards to the update was I did find the Colonial Water the link. I did find the reimbursement, and I was happy, as I mentioned earlier, happy to see it on Denise Garlett's link, and I assume, Kate, that we're going to put it on our website as well, if it's not already there.
That's correct. So once we actually put it up, so it's up on there, and we sent a news alert. And we also put it up on our social media.
Thank you. I have no other updates. Robin, anything that you have that you want to add to the town updates?
No, I've made enough trouble.
I'm glad you recognize that. So Chris, can we move to item 6, your updates?
Yeah, that's, if you're ready, Mr. Chair.
I am ready.
All right, on the topic of water, I just wanted to give the board a quick heads up on a lot of the water goals that you've just voted on. So we've got a new water website that's almost ready to go. The idea is to have all things water informational, as well as progress and information on the town's goals toward water in one place. That has been circulated for some feedback, and that'll be released. We anticipate early next week. We've got the RFQ for consulting services for a water. Yep, Bob.
So is that going to follow the sort of the Board of Health, COVID, and the Carroll Community Center sort of model, or be it different?
The water website?
Yeah, the water page. I'm assuming it's a page on the website.
It'll be a standalone designated page. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And
it's really good. It has a lot of really good information on it. So if people are interested in water, all they have to do is click on that.
Good, thank you.
Yep. We're finalizing the RFQ for our water consulting services for the long-term assessment that we've been talking about, but also to Robin's earlier point about some professional services. I plan to structure this RFQ and the engagement to not only have someone assist us with the kind of long-term recommendations and analysis, but also be on hand to be able to provide us with technical assistance should issues or things come up. So you could envision that if we had this individual on board, they could have been with us last week during the conversation to be able to provide feedback, advice, and guidance to the town on these water matters. So I'll, given the work required for this, I'll share that RFQ with the board in a public meeting before we go out for bids on it. And the team has also done polling on what other communities in the state are doing as it relates to irrigation bylaws and enforcement. It was another item that's part of the board's goals. So we should have a presentation and a potential recommendation for the board, I'd say in the next month or so, we want to give the board enough time if you think this is a direction that you want to head, so that we can prepare everything to get this on the town meeting this spring. We've started moving away from water. We've started the FY23 budget process, which is hard to believe. We've sat down with the chair of the capital budget committee to get the guidance and the process prepared. We're looking at ways to actually digitize and synchronize capital budget submissions this year so that they flow into our projection worksheets, as well as some of our other analysis tools, just to make the process more streamlined for people. I also met with the chair of the warrant committee this week to begin to start planning for the operating budget process, which I think actually will start in earnest at your next meeting when the personnel board comes and recommends a general increase. So the last thing I have for you is I met with the Norfolk County Commissioners this week, where they released their plan for distributing the ARPA funds to the Norfolk County communities. So they are going to set up a portal for communities to be able to access these funds and submit their projects. That should be live in October. So we'll be able to start utilizing that if and when we're ready to. And they have told us that they're only going to take a 3% cut out of communities' allotment. They could take the whole thing if they wanted to, but 3% for administrative and some other small things. So I just want to let you know I met with them. I'll incorporate that as part of my my conversation and presentation with the board, which we have a dedicated agenda item on the ARPA funds at your next meeting on the 9th. So those are just some quick hits for you this evening. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Chris. So can we move to the consent agenda? I move the items are included on the consent agenda for one-day liquor licenses, August 29th, October 2nd, October 23rd, 2021, approved open session meeting minutes for July 15th, July 29th, 2021, and executive session meeting minutes for June 24th, 2021. I move to approve the one-day special liquor licenses and open session meeting minutes as presented, and the executive session meeting minutes not to be released, and ask for a second.
I will second that.
All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Thank you very much.
Now, can I make a have dinner?
So I just want to say I apologize again for my internet instability, which, by the way, I think should be the title of a new sitcom, Internet Instability.
Well, that has promise.
I don't know. And Robin, tomorrow is my 32nd wedding anniversary. So I got my current wife flowers, and I said a gift from the king on the card. Do you think that's a little like too presumptuous, or is that okay?
I might change the card. Did you see Kate's face? No, you can't see it.
I can't see it.
An expression is worth 1,000 words. Well, happy anniversary to you and Lee, John.
Thank you very much,
Happy
Kate. That's a
anniversary
joke.
to you and you, John.
Yeah, 40 years together, 32 years married, 40
So you
years
guys
together.
got married in 89?
Yeah.
I can beat you. I got married in 88. Bob's leaving.
No, Bob got married.
I'm moving to adjourn, and I promise I'll have better internet next time.
Okay.
All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Did anybody second that motion?
Oh, second.
Seconded. Sorry, seconded. I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett. I don't like being the parliamentarian, but I do like going for dinner. Thank you all.